Have you guys ever wondered where and when religion has started? Most people are welcomed into this life with a set belief of their religions almost always following in their parents' or guardians' footsteps. In 2019, 65% of the adult population identified as Christian, and that number only rises. 65% of people, yet majority of them don't know where and when this started. I'm going to be giving you guys a history of Christianity and how Grigore Savorich single-handedly fought to make Armenia the first Christian state back in 301 AC. So today I will inform you guys on Grigore Savorich by first discussing his early life, secondly, his impact on Christianity in Armenia, and lastly, why his impact had a lasting effect. So Grigore Savorich was also known as Saint Gregory the Illuminator. He was the son of the first bishop of the Armenian Church. He is widely credited for turning Armenia from paganism to Christianity in 301. But how did this happen? So let's take a look into their father's history to understand the whole story. He was the son of a man named Anak Partev, and Anak Partev, his dad, Gregory's dad, was known for killing the at the time king. His name was Khosrov. The king's name was Khosrov, right? So he killed him, and so the Savorich family, so Gregory's family, was a very wealthy and influential family, but all of them were wiped out by the king's relatives because of anger. So they wiped out every single relative that Anak Partev had just for revenge. The only sole survival of all this was Gregory, and the reason for that is that his grandma actually took him away and sent him to seek refuge in Cappadocia. There he attended a Greek Christian school where he grew up being a Christian. So later on in his life, Gregory decided to return back to Armenia. And when he returned, the at the time reigning monarch was Tiridats IV, right? So he was actually the son of Khosrov, the king at the time. So immediately whenever Gregory returned, the new king imprisoned and tortured Gregory for one, revenge on his father's death, and two, because Gregory he was refusing to participate in all the rituals that they were doing because since now he was a Christian man, right? So basically Grigore Savorich, Gregory, and his father both believed in this image of making Armenia a Christian state. But almost all hope was lost when Gregory got imprisoned until one day his presence was once again needed. So he was imprisoned in this place called Khorvirak prison. Khorvirak prison is known as the Pit of a Billion because once you enter there, nobody has ever been seen coming out. It's like a black hole over there, right? So 13 years later, after being in that pit, his presence was once again needed by, of all people, the new king's sister. And the reason for this, her name was Khosrow Vidukht, right? So the reason that she was requesting him was because her brother, the king, was sick at the time. He became ill, and this illness made him hallucinate and angry, and like he was just a mess basically, and nothing was being able to cure him, right? So she had a vision that the only person that would be able to save the king was Grigore Savorich. So the ironic thing is that this illness actually came from when the king ordered a bunch of his men to go kill and murder a group of Christian nuns that were seeking, that fled persecution from Rome, right? And part of these Christian nuns, there was a woman named Kayane. Kayane was the king's love, and he wanted to marry her, but because she was Christian, she said no, and he had her murdered for it. So because of his crimes, right, against Christianity, he actually became ill. And then the one thing that would be able to save him was Grigore Savorich. So after trying everything possible, he tried doing medicine, he tried praying, whatever, like he did everything possible in order to feel better, right? But nothing was working. So at this point, out of desperation, he finally considered to let Grigore Savorich out. So he sent a bunch of men to go get Gregory out of prison, and Gregory came out with a long beard, dirty clothes, dirty face, he looked horrible, yet he had a smile on his face. Like there was something about like him coming out where he knew why he was coming out. So he got out and he preached and he prayed to the gospel, and naturally the king was cured shortly after. So once the king was cured, he very soon after converted his new faith of Christianity in 301 by Saint Gregory. So Armenia thus at that point became the first nation ever to adopt Christianity as its official religion and became a Christian state. So this brings me to my next point. What happened after this, right? So he first set the tone for the future of Armenia. He started building churches all over the place. Many royal families heard of of what happened with this whole situation, and they themselves started converting as well, right? So thousands of years later, we all proudly identify as Christian because Krikolu Savoric decided to fight for it, right? These royal families heard of his heroic act and courage, and they decided other people saw his heroic courage and decided that they wanted to fight for what they loved and wanted as well in their own nations, whether that was to be Christian or whether it was whatever they believed in. And these royal families, they heard his story and what he did, and so they themselves decided to convert their faith. His story is actually extremely important to my culture, and so I hope it gave you guys all as well an insight of where Christianity started right now, where it all started. So Krikolu Savoric is now known for converting the King Tiridats to Christianity and formally establishing the Armenian Church. And then so years later, now Christianity is now one of the biggest religions adopted today, and we have to thank Krikolu Savoric for fighting for what he believed in years ago. Without him, this would not be possible. Thank you guys so much.